Welcome to the start again. Welcome to the Elemental Health Podcast. I think this is the first time I am trying to do it kind of on video as well as to camera in first person. So interesting experiment for me, but I wanted to jump in with a solo podcast just in the run up to Christmas and all the changes that are going on in the world really, and help people understand, maybe think about something slightly differently, and also kind of for my own benefit of trying to get my head around what's going on in the wider world and rationalize that or put that into some sort of structure that's meaningful and allows me to make progress and move forward in the right direction. So I don't have a script. It's just kind of a very much of a chat, rambling chat. I'll try and edit out the absolute waffle. But so 2020 in reflection, I think it has been an incredibly disruptive year. Everyone has had to reflect deeply on their own personal situation, what's important to them, what is meaningful to them, who they listen to, what sources of information that they've been using in the past, and is that valid? Is it valid? Are these big structures that we put a lot of faith into in our society, are they meaningful? Do they hold value? Do they hold truth? Are they accountable? And can you build a life around the current structure that you've adhered to, effectively the programming that has led you up until this point in your life? And although there's been a lot of misery, a lot of disruption, a lot of people wondering what to do with their lives in terms of the economy, the isolation, all those factors that coronavirus has brought to us, I tend to think of it as what has come out of it that can be viewed with the perception angle view of positivity. I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to achieve by putting this podcast out, is being open and honest with people about what my understanding is, what my beliefs are, and sharing experts who can talk at a very specific topic, hopefully better than I can, and bring you that insight and information to allow you to examine what's going on in your life, what the barriers are to you succeeding, and how you can build good health, good fitness, good strength, and good structure in your life. And I think 2020 has been a kind of crazy time, really crazy time, and people are in it's very easy to get caught, I'll hold my hands up, it's happened to me, very easy to get caught in a mindset of despair and disillusionment, and sort of degradation of your daily routines and the things that you previously valued in life. Now, that's frustrating, upsetting, saddening, all things that lead to ill health ultimately. And I'll talk a little bit about health and the direction I think health needs to move in as well in a second. But all those things create a kind of negative connotation, negative spiral. So what good can come out of that? Well, in my eyes, lots of positive aspects to what's happened in 2020. There really are, and that's not me just trying to sugarcoat what's going on and what's happened and what's going to happen in the future. Not at all. But what I mean by that is, up until this point, I think there's been, myself as well, you get caught in a little bubble of beliefs and structures, and things get very comfortable, and you don't have a requirement to think through the processes and understand on a deep level what you need to do in your life to move forward, to progress, grow emotionally, spiritually, physically. We just kind of put the blinkers on, get through our daily routines, go to work, whatever it might be, get on that treadmill and move forward. And that's fine. But without that reflection, without that pause, without that disruption, we don't get that growth, we don't get that fulfillment, and ultimately I don't think we get that happiness. So the way I'm viewing this is we've had that stopgap, that firebreaker of this year of the craziness to actually reflect. And I would argue of a generation, or maybe multiple generations, they've never had this opportunity. We've never had this opportunity to truly reflect what's important to us. What do we actually value? What do the material things in our life mean to us? What does the kind of halting of the economy, what does that impact on us as individuals? And I think most people are in some state of reflection around that and what is important to them. And I can only see good things coming out of that process on an individual level. And when we as a collective come together, having reflected, having understood at a deep level what's important to us and what we truly value, then we're able to create powerful communities, powerful movements that maybe disrupt what's going on at an organizational level, government level, or structured organization that we know isn't working. And I've worked in healthcare in the NHS in the UK for many years now, and I've seen firsthand how kind of modern medicine is very good at dealing with acute problems, break your leg, get in a car crash or anything like that, but ultimately we don't become ill through acute problems. We become ill through a number of different factors. So everything, if you look at it through this lens, every aspect of illness can be kind of grouped into one when you view it through this lens. And I think it's quite important to think about things. So what is ill health? What is dis-ease within the body? And why do we need to understand that? For the first time ever, I think people are actually interested in science, interested in health, interested in wellness, interested in viruses. So what causes ill health? What causes that disruption of the balance within health? And how can science help us, and how can science inhibit us from progressing with our own health? So health to me, or ill health, let's talk about that. Let's talk about dis-ease. What is it? So it is inflammation within the body, okay? A response to something happening within the environment causing this massive inflammation. Yeah, most diseases, if not all, can be when they start to impact negatively on the human body, can be brought down to inflammation, that single word, that single aspect. So when things go wrong, what does the body do? It overcompensates, and you get this chronic inflammation, whether it be in the bowels, in the gut, in the brain, wherever it might be. It's this overcompensation, and that single point of inflammation, that's when things go very, 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 very wrong. So inflammation ultimately is what the outcome is of things going wrong. So that's what we need to think about. So how do we cause inflammation? Okay, it's a stress within our environment. So we cause a stress within the environment the body is unable to handle. So how do we cause stress? Well, obviously there are external factors to stress within the body, and largely speaking we are all partaking in that, whether it's the air we breathe, the foods we eat are full of toxins, and a lot of other factors that can cause stress on the body. But my experience is that the choices we make are the biggest impact on the stress that we have in our lives. So if we choose to eat a very unhealthy diet, or if we choose to not move our bodies, or if we choose to have very negative thought patterns, they all lead to the body interpreting that as a stressor, as a problem that it needs to protect against and solve, because that's what the body's always trying to do. It's trying to heal itself. So we then get a downward spiral where we start to see this inflammation at a low grade is helpful, but then it goes way too far and we get this chronic inflammation. And we can see that with coronavirus. Most people are 99.9 something percent of us are absolutely fine to handle this. Respiratory syndromes, there are lots out there. We can cope with that because we're able to understand the virus as it comes in. We're able to deal with the bits that are useful to us, and we're able to deal with the bits that aren't useful to us. And just to give you an idea, and I've said this a lot this year, is the number of viruses in the air we breathe are more than the stars in the sky. So 10 to the power of 16 is the number that I've heard. So that's 10 with 16 zeros on the end. That's in every cubic centimeter of air we breathe. That's how many viruses are in there. So viruses are an absolute vital part of who we are and of life. So trying to avoid viruses is a route to ill health, ultimately. Yep, we need to understand that life's about balance. So what we really need to understand and deal with is the stress that we're putting onto our body. If we can remove that stress, the body will heal itself. And despite all the science that we've had over the last 100 years, all we really need to do is nurture the body, remove the stress, and we will get that healing process. We have this most amazing, beautiful, innate immune system that, if it's allowed to flourish with the right conditions, we can heal from everything. And we've seen that time and time again. And actually, most allopathic medicine, most modern medicines, they're designed to be supportive, to actually allow the body to get back to some sort of homeostasis, some sort of balance, so it can then heal itself. So this notion that a pill will solve a problem is completely misguided, and that, I think, as a paradigm, is completely wrong. And I'm part of the modern medicine scene, so it's not appropriate for me to sort of like shoot that institution down. But the principles that we know work in modern medicine is we create an environment, whether it be through surgery, through drugs and medicines, that allow the body to balance itself back out and do its own healing. The body needs to heal itself. But we have the ability, if we're able to maintain a good immune system, we're able to maintain healthy habits, we're able to maintain a level of fitness, a level of self-resilience, that we can heal from these things. And ultimately, they don't really impact us. We can have a perfectly healthy life. And on top of that, the factor that causes most people to and this is where we're seeing this massive explosion in mental health, is anxiety, depression, ultimately fear. Fear is what causes stress, which ultimately what causes ill health, and inflammation within the body. So I think the aspects that I found frustrating and I'm trying to move away from are the facts that there has been a massive fearscape created around what's gone on this year, and that ultimately will lead to ill health. There's no way we can get away from that. That is a fact, absolute fact. The fear, the dissolution that has been caused will create ill health that we'll see a long way down the line. But how can we turn that around? What's important? Well, it's not. I certainly don't want to be seen as a kind of anti-science, anti-vaccinations, anti-mask wearing, or anti-anything really, because to quote the words of Zach Bush, if we're anti something, we create a void, we create a gap, and actually all you're doing is creating these polarizing forces with a big gap in the middle that gets filled by the opposing force. So being anti-masks or anti-vaccine is just not helpful, and I'm not really, because I think that it is appropriate in certain circumstances for certain people. So there's not a camp to be put in. What I would like to do is have this notion of what, aside from what's going on, what factors are we taking ownership of with our own health, and what factors are we focusing on to ensure that health. and there are a few different ones, but we know that health is founded on a strong community, um, and being able to have good levels of nutrition, being able to move our bodies, and being free from fear and guilt. Ultimately, that's the position that I want to help people to move into, and that's my aspirations for 2021, is to enable myself and the people that I communicate with to relinquish the fear and guilt that's out there in the world, to understand what their path to health is and how to move towards that path to health and resilience, and not have a reliance on any external factors, whether it be modern medicine, central government, or anything like that. We've got this internal ability to create our own utopia, our own beautiful environment to flourish, whether that be on a psychological level or a physiological level. We've got that innate power, and if we take the opportunity, and we create communities where we're reinforcing those positive aspects, and I'm staying away from that, those discussions about pro anti, all the hype around that sort of stuff that we're seeing as mainstream media. If we're able to kind of shut that out, and not use that as a programming force in our lives, because we are just sponges to the information that we put in front of our eyes.
And the biggest advocate of your own health and well-being. No one can tell you what to think, but the information that you are allowing through your eyes and ears on a daily basis are massively influencing what's going on, and the narrative that you've got in your head. And we've created this media monster, these structures, these big organizational structures that are ineffective, but they are very effective at influencing us, and that's the expertise that they've generated largely through what I think are very cheap and very easy tactics to get people to kind of listen in, and that is fear and guilt. You can't escape that, and my work, my thoughts, my own practice, what I believe is the path to health is way away from this notion of fear and guilt, and that's what I want to get away from. And I think the most powerful thing you can do is really control those influences coming into your life, turn the noise down, cut them off as much as possible, and be a proponent of your own positive psychology, your own positive neurology, neuroscience. Understand that what you see and hear will massively influence you, and be the biggest player in your own interpretation and your own indulgence of information. And create some big filters that allow you to do that. That's my hope for me, and my hope for you as well, to kind of create your own narrative that's empowering, it's powerful, and it allows you to move into the space that you want to move in, and keeps and stops you from staying in that sphere of kind of fear and guilt, and that bubble of not really knowing what's going to happen, what the future holds. That uncertainty, coupled with fear, is a really powerful narrative that I think is very easy to sell, and keeps people kind of from stopping taking action. The unknown is a beautiful place. The unknown holds the greatest love, the greatest passion, the greatest fulfillment, but only if we're able to move away from this notion that we should be fearful, we should be guilty about the things that we're doing, we want to do, and move away from this mainstream narrative. So that's my goal for myself and for you, if it brings you health and happiness, which I believe it can and will. It's a worthy cause. So I want to finish with a couple of quotes that I think are really powerful and kind of sum up the direction that is shouting out to me as the one that needs to be followed. First one is by Epicurus, an amazing a Greek philosopher that kind of sums up lots of aspects of kind of health and happiness, and I think has been misinterpreted in kind of modern Epicurean ways to live lives. But so this is a quote by Epicurus: "The purpose of all knowledge, metaphysical as well as scientific, is to achieve what is called ataraxia, freedom from irrational fears and anxieties of all sorts. In brief, peace of mind." So dissecting that, I think, is a powerful narrative that can be reinforced in every aspect of health and happiness. So the purpose of all knowledge, metaphysical as well as scientific, is to achieve this Greek word ataraxia, which is freedom from irrational fears and anxieties of all sorts. The only purpose, of understanding things, being scientific, generating knowledge, imbibing information, is to free ourselves from these irrational fears and anxieties of all sorts. If we can have that as our headline in 2021, I think the world will be an incredibly beautiful, colourful place that we can all be happy living in. That was the first one. Hopefully that's powerful for you and something to ponder and think about. And I think if that wasn't enough of a kind of takeaway from this episode, then let me pay my debt to you for tuning in with this final quote that I stole from Epictetus, which kind of sums up, I think, again, that an empowering narrative. So happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control and some things are not. It is only after you've faced up to this fundamental rule and learned to distinguish between what you can control and what you can't control that inner tranquility and outer effectiveness become possible. Take back control, take back agency over your own health, and focus as much of your energy, 100% of your energy, if that's achievable, on the things that you can control in your life. There's not much more for me to say. Leave it to the greats to do my work for me, but hopefully my dues are paid in terms of you guys tuning in. Thank you very much for your support throughout 2020. This podcast has graduated the first year of its life, so that's amazing for me as a project that I absolutely love, and I'm so fulfilled in having these rich conversations with all the people that I've brought onto the show. If you haven't listened to all the shows, then perhaps go back and listen to some of the earlier ones. I think the audio quality hopefully is getting better and better as I learn more about how a good podcast is produced. Still got a long way to go on that factor, but 2021 I'm going to continue the good work, and I value your support. The most important thing is that you're finding benefit from this and you're able to implement and execute against anything that I might be saying or someone else might be saying that really is in tune with where you want to take your life to. Okay, that's the purpose of it, is to create that awakening within each and every one of us, and it takes a different voice, a different key in the lock to perhaps understand things from our own unique perspective that allows us to move forward in that specific area, which is why I think it's important to have these different voices and to have these different ideas. Please keep supporting. The most powerful thing you can do to help out if you are genuinely benefiting from this is to share it with someone that you care about and you love. And I wish you all the best for 2021, a happy new year, lots of love over Christmas, and to keep fighting a good fight and keep working hard towards what's important. Here's to a healthier, happier and stronger 2021.